You're gonna give her a chance to get here on time finally.
I'll have a stick. I want to stick before the end of process.
She needs 10 minutes. Nah, I don't know what she needs. I'm just kidding, sort of.
We will call this meeting of the City Council to order and start with a roll call, please. Mayor Weiss? Here. Deputy Mayor Feller? Here. Councilmember Kine? Councilmember Rodriguez? Here. And Councilmember Sanchez. Mr. Mullen?
Thank you. The council will meet in closed session on the following items. Item 1, conference with labor negotiator in the matter of the Oceanside Police Officers Association. Item 2, conference with legal counsel on anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation in the matter of one case, significant exposure to litigation in the matter, significant exposure to litigation in one case, initiation of litigation in two cases. And item 3, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation in the workers' compensation matter of Sabino versus City of Oceanside. Adjourn the closed session.
Work on first. City Council to order and start with a roll call, please. Here. Deputy Mayor Feller?
Here.
Councilmember? Here. Councilmember Rodriguez? Here. Councilmember Sanchez? Here. All right. We will start with an invocation from Pastor Openshaw, please. And if you could remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Greetings from Lighthouse Christian Church, and thank you for the honor of giving the invocation. Would you please bow your heads with me? Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day of life and all your many bountiful blessings you continue to pour out on us. We thank you for the recent rains that you've given to replenish our reservoirs and to green up our hills, to remind us that you are the giver and sustainer of all life. We even thank you for the butterflies that flew through our city yesterday, reminding us that if you could turn a caterpillar into a butterfly, we too can change and find new life in you. I thank you for these civil servants who have come tonight to serve the needs of this community. I pray that you give them wisdom to handle the agenda before them, the ability to work together even where there is honest disagreement, that all that is done tonight might be for the best for the citizens of our beloved city of Oceanside and in accordance with your will. And I pray all these things in your precious name. Amen.
Join in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, if I could have the representative from the Humane Society come down.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tammy, and I am a Community Engagement Associate with the San Diego Humane Society. We have 3 shelters, one just down the road here in Oceanside, one in Escondido, and one in San Diego. So I brought one of our available friends that we have with me today. So this is Russell. Russell is approximately 7 months old. He's a male Abyssinian guinea pig. So it's kind of a crazy hair day every day. He's pretty sweet, though. He was brought in from his previous owner because they couldn't care for him anymore due to allergies. But anybody is welcome to come visit. Our shelters open 10 to 6. 7 days a week. And you can also find all of our available animals on our website, sghumane.org. And we also offer vaccination clinics and microchipping to anybody to bring their pet in as well. I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you. And at this time, if I could, I'd have Gina Thomas come forward just to tell us a little bit about the Ironman event that's coming up on April 6th.
Thank you, Mayor and fellow council members. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Gina Thomas, fellow Oceansider, married to a former harbor cop and raising second-generation Oceanside boys. The Ironman is our official name is Ironman 70.3 Oceanside, which we were able to change 4 years ago from California to Oceanside, and we're pretty proud of that. The 70.3 stands for the total distance that the athletes will do of each discipline. The first discipline being a swim, a 1.2-mile swim, that will be a beach start, and they'll swim into the mouth of the harbor and finish at the boat ramp. Then there'll be a 56-mile bike ride that will go out through the Delmar Gate on Camp Pendleton, through the state parks, and come back in that return. Then there'll be a 13.1 2-mile loop that will start off at the harbor area and traverse up and down the Strand and Pacific Street, finishing up at the pier. I've been the race director since 2009, so this will be my 10th year race directing, and I am very pleased to announce that back then our revenue brought in about $2 million for about 2,000 athletes. According to Visit Oceanside, the last report from a few years ago for 2,800 athletes was $3.9 million, and we sold out for one day back in July for 3,500 athletes. So pretty exciting to see what our revenue will be generated with that. As well, we ranked 8th out of 114 70.3 events globally for one of the best venues. So what that usually translates to is more tourism, more people taking longer stays, and I can say honestly that out of that group we have 579 athletes coming out of country, and then we have over 2,000 that are coming outside of San Diego and Orange County. So we have a lot of people traveling in on that day. We also have a nonprofit component to the Ironman. It's the Ironman Foundation that gives back to the community. And since 2002, they've given over $450,000 back to our youth programs, military groups, and nonprofits here in Oceanside. They also do an adaptive surf clinic on Sunday, and then they host the Iron Kids that will be Friday, April 5th. As well, our Ironman Foundation team is approximately 350 athletes that have raised money to pour back into the community. We also have 30 challenge athletes that are raising money for Operation Rebound, and obviously with Camp Pendleton, we're pretty passionate about our Marines and our sailors. And then we also have what is exciting is our executive challenge has come back. They took a year off. These are high-power executives that come and race this event, and they're very much a family, and I just found out that one very important guy will be coming here, and he's also looking for a new home. So we do know that these races, especially being ranked number 8, brings a lot of attention from those type of people, and we know from Visit Oceanside, from their visitors forum, that a lot of times people visiting, they also end up bringing their business as well. So I'm very excited. Again, the day is April 6th. It's a Saturday. We have over 80 pros that are going to attend, and our 4-time Ironman World Championship female winner, Daniela Reif, will be coming in racing this year. So we will have a lot of things going on this year, but I'm just very excited just to see what we have done and partnering up with Visit Oceanside to see what we could do to care for our athletes. Obviously, I'm very passionate about my city, so I love showing it off, and obviously in the athlete monthly surveys it shows. So I'm very thankful to everybody and their participation.
Thank you. Councilmember Sanchez? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Tina. Mr. Mullen?
Thank you. The City Council met earlier this afternoon to discuss several items in closed session. First, the council met to discuss the status of labor negotiations with the Oceanside Police Officers Association, and there's no action under the Brown Act to report. The council also met on item 2, conference with legal counsel on a significant exposure to litigation in one matter and potential initiation of litigation in 2 matters. Council did meet on both 2A and 2B, but there's no action to report. Finally, the council met on the workers' compensation case of Michael Sabino versus the City of Oceanside. The case numbers are reflected on page 2 of the agenda. And the council did give direction on those 3 claims, but there's no final action under the Brown Act to report at this time.
Thank you. Next, we have our consent calendar, which are items 5 through 9. Do we have any requests to pull?
No requests were given.
Okay. Councilmember Sanchez?
Move approval move approval.
I second. Please vote. And approved, 5-0. We'll go to item 10, which is introduction of an ordinance amending speed limits. Good afternoon, Ms. Cotter.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. My name is Sheila Carr. I'm Associate Traffic Engineer with the City. This item I'm bringing forward to you tonight pertains to the establishment of prima facie speed limits at various locations within our city. Staff recommends that the City Council introduce an ordinance amending Article 14, Section 14 and 14.1 of the Oceanside Traffic Code by the addition and change of the various subsections to establish speed limits on 13 street segments identified in Table A located in your staff report and later also in this report. The 3 main street classifications are arterial, collector, and local streets. Local streets are also viewed as residential streets. The California road system map distinguishes between the arterial, collector, and local streets. An engineering and traffic survey is required for all streets higher than a local, mainly basically meaning the arterial and collector streets. And in the California Vehicle Code, per section 22-350, it states no person shall drive a vehicle upon a highway at a speed greater than is reasonable or prudent, having due regard for weather, visibility, the traffic on the surface and width of the highway, and in no event at a speed which endangers the safety of persons or property. The streets that are being evaluated, that have been evaluated by staff and coming forward to you today is Benet Road, 3 sections of Coast Highway, 2 sections of College Boulevard, Down Street, Fuzzy Road, Ivy Road, 2 sections of Old Grove, Surfrider Way, and Wisconsin Street. Two main items used to determine the prima facie speed limit is the critical speed, also seen as the 85th percentile, and the traffic collision history. The speed limit should not be posted below the 50th percentile. There are 3 streets that will be posted. The posted speed limit will be increased, and those specific streets will be Benet Road between Fusat and Airport, and Increased. I'm street reading the other one, sorry. The ones that will be increased is College Boulevard between Adams and North River. They'll be going from 40 to 45. College Boulevard, Waring to Lake, which will be 35 to 40. And Down Street, which is Skylark to California, which would be 35 to 40 miles per hour. There's one street that will be decreased for the speed limit, and 5 streets where the speed limit will remain the same, and 4 streets with new speed limits established. In conclusion, again, staff recommends that the City Council introduce an ordinance amending Article 14, Section 14 and 14.1 of the Oceanside Traffic Code by the addition and change of the various subsections to establish speed limits on these 13 segments identified in Table A. That concludes my presentation.
Do we have any public? We have 4 speakers on this item. Okay. Pardon call? All right. There's 2 podiums, so I'll call 2 speakers at a time, and either podium's fine. Our first speaker is Amber Newman, to be followed by Daniel DeCurtins.
Good evening, Council. My name is Amber Newman. I have lived on Fire Mountain for going on 14 years and counting. My house is at the corner of Zabin and Down, and the targeted section of Downs is the western border of our property. There are also 2 private driveways that open onto that stretch of road. In those 14 years, I have witnessed cut-through traffic speed through here at well above the posted speed limit with absolutely no consequence. My neighbor's tree has been hit. The street sign on our corner has been knocked down more than once, and skid mark evidence of cars barely missing our garage have been left behind repeatedly. We have high pedestrian traffic in our neighborhood that includes children walking to schools that are located a mere 2 blocks west, all of which have minimal sidewalks. And drivers on this street regularly treat the posted stop sign at California as optional. All of these issues are certain to get worse once Scripps opens on Vista Way. I'm also concerned with how this item is being approached. Down Street, heading north, is a steep hill where gravity naturally increases your speed before you know it. The tight curves at the bottom ends up being a last-minute wake-up call for distracted drivers who are unaware that it's not a straight shot to the bottom. There is a posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour on Downs that apparently 85% of drivers exceed, and instead of enforcing that speed limit, the best recommendation seems to be to accommodate the violators by increasing the speed limit to 40 miles an hour. It seems an odd approach, especially when the next section of that same street has recently been posted at 25 miles an hour. Now, I know we're going to have cut-through traffic from Oceanside Boulevard to Vista Way and to the 78, but I think it's important to remind these drivers that their shortcut is a residential neighborhood. It's not the Autobahn. Keeping the speed limit in check will only help keep our neighbors and our neighborhoods safe. As it is, we are already matching speeds with a nearby section of Oceanside Boulevard that is 4 lanes of commercial traffic. I think we're already doing our part to help keep the traffic flowing. I urge the Council to reject this proposal and instead encourage enforcement of the limits that are already in place. Thank you.
Yes, I'm also here for the speed limit increases in Fire Mountain. I've been a resident for my whole life, most of it. And this is a very dangerous neighborhood for pedestrians. There's no sidewalks or very few sidewalks in the area. The lighting is very poor. As she mentioned, this stretch of Downs will go to 40 miles an hour, and immediately on the other side it's 25. So, that is a very dangerous area as well. The access to the commercial areas on the other side is very limited. Years ago, when they built the Pacific Plaza, I believe it's what it's called, where the Walmart is down below, they lobbied for the Cassidy entrance to be closed, so everyone is funneled from the 5 freeway through our neighborhood down to all those commercial areas down below. I work up north, so around this time, going south on the 5, getting to about Cassidy Street, it backs up, trying to get onto the 78 to go east. People cut through
76 and then go Canyon to Crouch. They naturally cut through that neighborhood to get through to the 78. I've seen it before. I understand, these state regulations are very cumbersome, and we have to try to figure out how to get these speed limits put into place so they can be enforceable. But one of the things that is enforceable in our neighborhood is stop signs, and we have not seen a police presence enforcing stop signs at this point. So moving forward, if we establish these enforceable speed limits, what's to say that they're going to enforce the speed limit anyway? So I asked for you guys to at least reject this proposal for this stretch of street. The three streets that are proposed to get an increase are 2 for College Boulevard, and then 1 for a residential street. I think that, if these studies, at least in this neighborhood, should be redone. Maybe traffic calming devices can be put into place to naturally slow the traffic down, and then redo these surveys to reflect what should be a speed limit in these neighborhoods, which is 25, in my opinion. Fire Mountain is 30 miles an hour, going from Ridgeway all the way up to El Camino Real. So I urge you to please reject this proposal. Thank you.
Our last 2 speakers are Jimmy Knott and Leslie Rush.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. Few questions here. Safe and safety. What exactly is safe? There was no report on that. It's just an assumption. They didn't, give the report. Staff did not. And what does the local community in each one of those areas say? There was no report on that. There was no survey done on that. And there was one statement: endangers the safety of persons or property. What does endanger mean to the citizens of Oceanside? That was not given. There may be a different definition in Oceanside as versus other communities or the state because of our terrain and the way the Oceanside is built. Where was the location maps and satellite imagery to show the public exactly where these are? The elevations. None of that was shown. None showing about the houses and everything. It's no longer open territory. The city is about built out. Coast Highway needs to be reduced the entire length to 25 miles an hour. 35 miles per hour, you want to keep it from Morse to Vista Way? There are too many corners. Why is 25 miles an hour okay for past Oceanside Boulevard on Coast Highway on to the northern terminus? But and it also has too many corners, but it's not okay for south of Oceanside Boulevard. It has a similar reflection. It is no longer open territory. It is an urban center like downtown Oceanside. It needs to reflect the population demographics. That was not taken into consideration. The whole issue of safe and safety needs to be considered, and it wasn't. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leslie Rush. I'm a 16-year resident of the Fire Mountain community. I live on Avocado Road, one street up between Zabin and Downs. I'm extremely opposed to increasing the speed limit on Downs. I believe currently the 35 mile an hour speed limit is too high as it is. And I'm just going to point out a few things that I noted and read from this because I don't want to forget anything. Currently, we see Skylark, which is the street that goes up to Downs, at a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. That is outside of the residential neighborhood. Is the oncoming way that most of this through traffic comes through to Downs Street. It's 25 miles an hour. It then increases on Downs to 35 and then reduces again to 25. That's increasing to 35 as it's coming into the residential neighborhood. I understand that this current traffic survey only is taking into account the current speed limit driven and the accidents that are reported. It's not taking into consideration unreported accidents. It's not taking into consideration the fact that there's only a small section of sidewalk, and the sidewalk that is there has two obstacles that make it totally unusable for a wheelchair to make its way down Street to the public transportation that's down. So the wheelchairs have to travel within the speeding cars that are driving on Down Street at 35 miles an hour, which is really 45, probably is what they're doing right now, or 40 is proposing. It doesn't take into account that there's two private driveways that exit onto Down Street. It doesn't take into account that there are people that already don't stop at the intersection of Downs and California despite the high volume of dog walkers, neighborhood walkers, and kids walking to school. It doesn't take into account that currently it can sometimes take 4 to 5 minutes to turn from Zabin Street or Dunstan Street onto Downs with all that traffic coming through at 35 miles an hour. I just don't understand how the argument can be that the only way to enforce the speed limit on this stretch is by raising it to 40 miles per hour in accordance with the traffic study. They aren't enforcing the traffic violations that are going on in our neighborhood right now. So if they increase it to 40, are they going to enforce it? I don't think so, because we currently have, from what I understand, we have we are no longer doing traffic calming at the moment because of budget restraints. I've called Sergeant Bussey in the Oceanside Police Department numerous times. I work from a home office in right on Avocado, and I see regularly violators going through, stopping the stops at the stop sign, going through the stop sign. We don't have anyone out there monitoring this. We have kids that are coming home from school that are regularly, I see almost accidents happening where the kids are almost hit.
Can you wrap
my time's up, and I have 2 more pages, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the benefit of the public, after the presentation, there were 4 streets that were indicated that there was no posted speed limit, and I want to just call those out. That would be Ivy Road, Avocado Road to Fire Mountain Drive, and that there was no speed limit posted, and now the proposal is to post it as 25, which sounds like what other people would like to have on Downs. Also, Old Grove Road, which is from Frazee Road to State Route 76, and the proposal there is for 40 miles an hour, no previous posted limit. Surfrider Way between Coast Highway to Horn Street, and that will be 25, that's proposed, miles an hour, and Wisconsin Avenue, which would be 25 miles an hour. And I just want to give staff an opportunity, first of all, to answer Mr. Knott's question about the safety aspect and why it is that why this is proposed in terms of it being able to be enforceable. But with the primary request of, is this safe? Are these proposals safe?
These surveys are done based off the standards that are put in place per the California Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices and the California Vehicle Code. And we do it by those standards so that they can be enforceable by OPD in the traffic court. And if they are not if they do not meet those standards, then they are not enforceable. And then, yeah.
Right, and as to the safety part, which is the question, could you answer that? Are they safe? I mean, that's basically...
Honorable Mayor, members members of the council, David Aparo, State Traffic Engineer. We do look at the safety aspect of the streets. In our table, we do show what the statewide California accident rate is and what the accident rate of each street is. So if we notice in the, as Tila was mentioning, if the law allows us, we can reduce the speed limit an extra 5 miles an hour if we show that the accident rate on a particular street is higher than what the California state accident rate is. So we absolutely do take safety into concerns when we're looking at this.
All right, thank you. Now, as to Downs, I recall that there were a lot of folks from Fire Mountain that came in and asked for traffic calming. And David, if you were here at that time, and that's when we did all the roundabouts and we really were able to calm the traffic down. This was basically a promise that was made to this community when the shopping center came in. And so I wonder perhaps if maybe Down Street on this side or this segment was maybe accidentally left off. But I am listening to the concerns, and I do think that that is something that we ought to maybe look at again with maybe the potential for doing some traffic calming. I think everything else looks good, but as to that, I understand that Councilmember Kine would like to make a motion with respect to that. Do you want to make that motion now?
Yeah, I got just a quick question. So I understand the numbers. A question for staff. I understand the numbers reference that. So if we went back and looked at Down Street, so at the 50th percentile was 38 miles an hour. So if we went back down to 35, that would make it not enforceable by OPD?
Correct. And OPD would not be able to enforce it because the commissioners, well, per the standards, it would not be against the standards, and the traffic commissioners would throw out the citation.
Okay. What would be the best way to lower that speed? I'm in agreement that I think that 40 miles an hour is too high on that section of street.
So, what's your question?
Yes. Well, what would be? Is there a different way to relook at that portion of street to determine if 40 miles an hour is too fast?
You can leave the speed limit at 35 miles per hour, but then it just would not be enforceable. So, but there's nothing we can do. A speed survey was done a couple of times, and it always came back around the same thing, around 40 miles per hour.
We could look at traffic calming, though, right? That would be a way to slow down the speed and then maybe even lower it to 25.
So, Honorable Mayor and members of the council.
Yes, one of the things that we did.
Traffic calming is an excellent tool to obviously slow down traffic, and those are options. But right now we don't have a program in place. But at council's direction, we're willing to take on any assignments that's assigned to us. But it's really at council's direction what you would like us to do. But with that said, we could leave the posted speed limit at 35 miles an hour, just be unenforceable.
Right, until we, did you want to make a motion before I leave here?
We have other speakers. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yeah, okay, then let me make the motion.
Thank you. I was at the Planning Commission meeting, and I heard the concerns of many residents in Fire Mountain. I also heard the experts within our city that have spent a lot of time in assessing the speed limits, taking into consideration safety. From my understanding, there are individuals that are driving downs above the posted speed limit. They're already doing it, and we're not able to enforce those tickets because we don't have state-mandated posted speed limits. So it's counterintuitive to lower the speed and or keep it the same and have zero change. So I move on a motion to support staff in increasing the rate so that we can enforce and can, go after the individuals who are violating the speed limit. So I move motion on moving on item 10.
Councilmember Sanchez?
I'd like to amend that motion and exclude downs and give direction to staff to work with the community on doing some traffic calming.
I'll second that motion.
Well, let me suggest, why don't we do a motion on all of them but Downs, and then we'll come back to Downs. So I'll make a motion that we approve all of staff's recommendations with the exception of Downs, and then we'll have a separate.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Mr. Mullen?
We're going to do the first vote on everything except Downs. Excuse me. So we need to title the ordinance. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside, California, amending Article 14, Section 14 and 14.1 of the Oceanside Traffic Code by the addition and changes of various subsections to establish various speed limits on various streets, excluding Down Street. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0. So, Councilmember Sanchez?
Okay, I move that we direct staff to work with the community on doing some traffic calming so that we can actually slow traffic down to what is consistent with other areas in Fire Mountain. I believe that's 25 miles an hour.
Councilman Feller?
My fingers aren't working. Is a tough issue right there, just because it's uneasy coast. The community of Fire Mountain doesn't want sidewalks, so that makes it difficult in that regard. Personally, I'd rather see a slower speed, since we're dealing with a lower speed on Skylark. What is it, 30 or 25, and then the lower speed on the other end, and we're just opening it up to the higher speed. I had a long talk with Tila yesterday over, the judgment of what happens on the freeway, and you can drive 74 miles an hour on any freeway, as long as it's safe, and at the discretion of the officer, he'll leave you alone, and most times he'll leave you alone because usually somebody's going a heck of a lot faster than 74. Same with the 70 mile an hour speed limit. The police officer can leave you alone legitimately up to 79 miles an hour because people are going faster. What I would rather see than leaving it at 35 is put in a stop sign halfway. You could put a stop sign at Zabin or the bottom of Dunstan. It's minimal, and you could probably write up most of all these people's neighbors as they run through it, but it would be enforceable at that point. And then you could leave it at 35. So I would like to see that happen. And how do you make that happen?
Well,
do we have a motion on? Go ahead.
Am I responding?
So, Mr. Navarre, can you clarify the motion, please?
So it appears we have a motion on the floor to direct staff to prepare a traffic calming in the Fire Mountain area.
Well, the motion was to work with the community in slowing down this the downs on this segment. I called it traffic calming, but I would include in my motion studying to see if the stop sign is also warranted. And I believe that's a second.
I'll second that.
Councilman Rodriguez?
I hear the concern. We've moved on in the past. Traffic calming operations, they just become a burden. It's continuous in this area, from what I'm understanding. This is an opportunity to amend this so that we can actually enforce the speed limit for those that are violating it. It seems like the most obvious choice is to raise it 5 miles and enforce it, and hit it hard. Could you explain what efforts potentially would be made if it was to pass and go through? What would that look like from an enforcement standpoint?
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, I guess what I would like to do before answering that question is to address the stop sign and maybe the traffic calming and maybe lead into that. If we were to look at a stop sign and just doing this for over 30 years, it won't warrant what our guidelines are for a stop sign. It's just not enough cross traffic, so I can tell you right now it would not meet our engineering survey. And if we were to go about to install a stop sign, the stop is going to stop people at that exact point wherever we put that at the cross street. People will speed up after the stop sign, so we won't have that constant speed between two stop signs. So that's probably maybe not the best recommendation to do a stop sign to control speeds. And then the traffic calming issue has come up too, and do we look at road humps and some of these other alternatives, but this is a classified street, so we normally would not install like a road hump. But I guess what I'm leading to is one particular traffic calming device that we have used quite successfully in the city has been a driver feedback sign that actually flashes what the speed is of the person driving. So when we put a speed limit below it too, it reminds people what the speed is they should be driving. And that we're allowed to do on classified streets without having to go through the neighborhood traffic calming program. So that would, if we're looking for recommendations, I was just thinking maybe that's probably a possible course of action is to give staff direction to do a driver feedback sign, and we could take that on without having to go through a whole community workshop to do traffic calming when we don't even have a program in place.
Then I'd like to make a motion to give staff guidance to move forward on a speed limit feedback versus community dialogue. Let's just move on that and see what that looks like and leave the speed limit the same.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor on that first.
The traffic calming would include that, so
we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-2. Weiss, Rodriguez, no.
So if we can, let's please go to item 14, which is a request by myself to make appointments for the various committees and commissions. You have a list of those recommended people in your packet, and I would move approval on those.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Item 15, which is a request by Council Members Rodriguez and Keim, and I'll let whichever one of you wants to lead the discussion introduce it.
Yeah. Thank you. So this is a request by me and Councilmember Keim to direct staff to develop a tax incentivized job creation program to consider providing a one-time incentive of $2,500 to qualified Oceanside businesses that hire Oceanside residents to newly created positions, paying over $60,000 annually with considered outlined memos. And so we're giving direction to staff, and if my colleagues can get on board. Right now in Oceanside and many coastal cities, we're dealing with a housing affordability crisis. And one of many ways to address housing affordability is increasing job growth, and not just minimum wage jobs, salaried, higher income jobs. And so, for one individual, $60,000 plus, I know through this report, staff will be able to get back to us on exactly what that may look like. Maybe it's $55,000, maybe it's $75,000. They will be able to assess that. Staff has been working really hard on an economic development element, which includes climate action plan, which we're getting a lot of great feedback on for many years and moving forward on. It addresses many great things, but one of the items I would like to see it address, and this would assist in that process, is the assurance that a local business will hire Oceanside residents. and I think we can connect that gap. I really think with a study and putting staff to work on something like this, we can really connect the dots on hiring from within Oceanside. You win bees with honey, so let's reward local businesses with tax incentives. That tax incentive amount, and maybe in the end of the study we find out, hey, businesses will get on board with a $500 tax incentive. Maybe it's $2,500 tax incentive, and we'll be able to assess that and give staff authorization to be flexible on what they come back with in their recommendations. This will be an amazing tool that will obviously incentivize local businesses and keep hiring local Oceansiders at the top of the HR department's minds. When it's at the top of the mind, they know there's an incentive. By default, they're going to want to approach this path to hire more Oceanside locals. This will help improve Oceanside's unemployment rating. This will ensure the creation of permanent higher salary positions. This will prevent retail leakage because we spend where we work. If you're working in Carlsbad, you live in Oceanside, you're going to eat lunch, buy clothes, get gas in the city you work in. This is going to keep everything within Oceanside. For all our environmental friendly residents, this will significantly drop travel time for fossil fuel vehicles that contribute to greenhouse gases. If we did an incentive at $2,500 per created job, we're looking at, based on the proposal me and Kime put together, it's 200 jobs. If we did it at $500 per permanent job created, that's 1,000 jobs that we can give Oceansiders, way above minimum wage. Today's action is only to authorize staff to move in due diligence to assess the financial impact and benefits. Let's see what this looks like. Let's see if this can make sense. Every business that I've personally interviewed said that this sounds like an amazing plan that they would love to participate with our city on. This will not solve in itself housing affordability here in Oceanside, but it will create the potential of 200 to 1,000 jobs for our Oceanside residents. Thank you. That's all I have.
Are there public? No public speakers. Councilmember Kime.
I think this is an important topic, and I think speaking to Councilmember Rodriguez about it, it's exciting that we're thinking of these new ideas, so it's important to discuss. I'm concerned specifically with some of the numbers, so I think there's broad support maybe with a program of this sort. Right now, I don't know about the exact numbers, and so for that I'm hesitant just with this specific plan, but I think it's something that we need to go forward with in the future, and if we brought back something that had a little more flexibility for staff to just study a program such as this and what would work best, that's something I think would help.
Councilmember Feller.
Thanks. I know we haven't had any input from businesses on staff's part at this point. As I look at things, I think the jobs that are here would be coming here. The jobs that are here are already in this category, if that's the case. So we're looking for people coming outside, and I would rather see this come through economic development as another tool in their arrow in their quiver, what tool in their toolbox to incentivize as an issue. So that's what I'd like to see added to this. I don't, 2,500 for a business, I don't think the numbers work out for a $60,000 job. So I would probably give it to economic development and have them look at how to bring this into the fold. Incentivization is probably a very good thing for the businesses in Oceanside. Just how we do it is how I'd rather see it come through economic development. There's a lot of great minds in that group, so thank you.
If I could just add it, and I don't disagree with actually all of you, my preference would be, instead of the specifics that are in the attached memo, that I'm willing to at least support the direction to staff to prepare a business attraction and retention tax incentive program, working with the chamber and the business owners to see what out there makes sense for both not just bringing businesses in here, but keeping them here. So businesses that are looking to go from incubator space to somewhere else, what would they need as an incentive program, and just keep it more open-ended and have staff come back with a variety of potential programs versus the specificity in the attachment. So, I mean, if that's supportable, I mean, if you want to look at that, that's fine. Actually, you're pushed the button.
That's a motion. I'll second for yours.
Well, I want to kind of, I mean, if you want me to, I will. If not, I'll let you.
Yeah, so no, I absolutely hear and I agree with what you all are saying. I think the key ingredient here is none of this is really going to make sense without having the correct consultant do a report. And if you look at the memo, I put the preparation of economic subsidy report is strongly recommended to document the potential economic benefits to the city, including the information set forth in Government Code Section 53083 in a format approved by the city manager and city attorney. So, number one, we need to have some reporting, some due diligence. As far as the terms of the amount of the tax incentive and how much the city is going to spend and all those dynamics, that's going to be a subject too. So I would, the modifications that we can make is, the one-time incentive to be determined based on staff, and the income level to be determined based on staff. I'm also outlining on item 5 of my memo that staff bring this before the Economic Development Commission within 120 days for the public to get involved on this process, and that commission to get involved so that it can be fine-tuned a little more and then brought back to us. And no matter what way you look at it, it's gonna have to go through this path. We're just initiating this because I think it's pretty urgent that we take initiative as policymakers on attracting more jobs from within is a key ingredient here. So, are we on the same page, or are we?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Councilmember Sanchez.
I'm concerned as well that about the specifics. First of all, spending up to $500,000 a year on a program that talks about giving up to $2,500 for employer to add a new position. I doubt that is really going to be, that would really create new positions. I really do. I think it would be better for us to just direct our Economic Development Commission they're constantly looking at this stuff. I think it's better to get more employers to Oceanside. We need more jobs. We have the lowest jobs to residence ratio in the entire county, and we need to get more employers. We have, we're far beyond in terms of housing, but in terms of jobs, we've got a lot of people leaving the city every morning or evening, and adding to the traffic. So I think that we ought to direct Economic Development Commission and staff to look at ways for increasing businesses in Oceanside, period. And, not say it's got to be a tax incentive, but instead say, okay, what things can we do? And, I think we really ought to be looking very seriously about a tax incentive that may or may not even be part of the equation. So if we could just direct staff to come back to us at a time that, is efficient, but, not, tightening the screws, where we can begin this whole idea about bringing more businesses to Oceanside. We've got commercial space We've got industrial space. We need to do this. And so that's what my direction would be, to direct staff to come back with, working with the Economic Development Commission, to come back with ideas on what we can do. Not just, not tie it to a tax incentive program.
Councilman Rodriguez. So my concern with that thinking is that we're going to look at kind of doing the same thing we've always done and get the same thing we've always got. We have to offer incentives, and we get an outcome with that incentive. If I have my children and they want to play video games, well, I don't let them play video games until their homework's done. We have to offer an incentive, and just saying let's attract more employers, let's do this, let's do that. There's a lot of great activity, but how are we guaranteeing that we're getting Oceanside residents a new job? That's key, is getting the assurance, the guarantee, the control of here's your incentive, whatever that looks like. Here's the job you're creating, whatever that looks like. Here's the minimum salary, whatever that looks like. Here's the incentive for that. And now we know we just created a job. All these other activities, there's no guarantee we're ever creating a job within our own city. That's the key element here that I encourage my colleagues to work with me on, this tax incentive sort of dynamic, and move on at least the study so we can look at what this actually looks like. We're all talking not as experts. Let's see what a consultant that is experienced in this, thinking comes back with, and then let's get it before the Economic Development Commission, and then we'll look at it again. We're not making a decision on this is the creation of the program. We're saying, hey, let's look at this. Let's explore this.
Well, let me try this. Given what you, so I'll make a motion that we direct staff to prepare a draft business attraction and retention tax incentive program and present the draft to the EDC within 120 days.
I'll second. Can you exclude just tax incentives, because we have, for example,
a general incentive program. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that would be better, because when we attracted Mossy Nissan, and we attracted, the other one, what is it called? We actually came up with a program.
A tax incentive.
Yes, but it's different from what is being proposed. And so if we can, leave it more open.
And that's what I said. If it's prepared, that they prepare a draft business attraction and retention, I'm okay with just incentive programs, but the direction of staff.
I would like the word tax incentive in there. I mean, that money talks. We're rewarding them for hiring Oceanside locals. So I would like it to be a tax incentive. That's what it is. That's what talks.
How about financial incentives?
Financial incentives.
Because honestly, what's a tax incentive? That's giving up
I think you have a second
money
from Councilmember Kine.
So we have, so the direction will be staff to prepare a draft business attraction or retention financial incentive program, present the draft to EDC within 120 days. Councilmember Phil?
Thank you. The part that is key is to staff work through this in 120 days. What is important, I think, to probably all of us, is to use Oceanside residents as the recipient of these incentives that we're going to give in our package, our toolkit, to prospective businesses, because you're not going to get, for somebody to create a $60,000 job, you're not going to give somebody $2,500.
No.
I don't think they buy it. So I will support this, but I think we need to keep a focus on incentivizing to use, and whatever other incentives you come up with to bring them into the city, but especially for the citizens of Oceanside to be a key part of this.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you. And we've had employers, even on construction jobs, get people to come from Arizona, for example, and stay in Oceanside at the motel motels, and then they're taking jobs away from Oceanside residents. So what can we do to get employers to hire Oceanside residents? That is a big thing for me and for the community of Oceanside. So whatever it is, and when we say tax incentive, the only tax that we are able to do is a business tax. We're not.
No, that's not correct. We can do both.
And that's not a whole lot of. That's not a big pot of money. Is there another tax that we do on businesses besides the business license tax?
Sales tax.
Sales tax. You want to take our 1%? Okay.
That's what we did for the cardio. City manager.
Mayor and Council. I think I understand what you want. I would just ask that you give us some flexibility. We have not, in terms of due diligence and looking at other programs and doing our homework, we have not analyzed this yet. So I really don't want to be held to, $2,500 and $100,000. I mean, I don't know what that Just Right program is. And we want to do it properly. So I would just ask for your flexibility and let us do some homework and come back with something for you all to take a look at.
Absolutely. And the motion of just stating financial incentive, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I think Councilmember Klein second that. So please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0. Go to the public hearing. Then we will go to item 11, our public hearing, which is the introduction of an ordinance and adoption of resolutions regarding the comprehensive zoning ordinance. And we will open the public hearing and start with disclosures.
Only staff, and we've reviewed this prior.
Only staff, nothing further.
Staff.
No public. Staff.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Last March, on the 14th of March 2018, the City Council approved Zone Amendment ZA 1607 and Local Coastal Plan Amendment 1604, repealing Article 18 of the 1986 zoning ordinance and modifying Articles 27 and 35 of the zoning ordinance that was formerly referred to as the 92 zoning ordinance. In doing so, the City Council wished to establish citywide regulations for non-conforming uses and structures and obtain certification by the Coastal Commission. In December of last year, the Coastal Commission approved the Local Coastal Plan Amendment with one suggested modification regarding termination of non-conforming status of non-conforming uses and structures. Those modifications are shown highlighted on the projected screen, and what the Coastal Commission has requested through the modified language is to require any non-conforming uses or structures to be brought into conformity when a change, expansion, enlargement, or intensification of structural non-conformity or use or the addition of a new use of the property is proposed that would be inconsistent with habitat buffer, public view, public access, and recreation, that would be inconsistent with a land use plan. Staff concurs with this recommended modification, and we recommend approval. We find this to be consistent with our land use plan, with the Coastal Act, and we recommend that the City Council introduce the ordinance before you this evening and adopt the resolution requesting California Coastal Commission concurrence as proposed. Thank you very much. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
This is a public hearing. If there's anyone in the public that wishes to address this item, seeing no one, Councilmember Sanchez.
Move adoption.
Introduction. Councilmember Feller. I need the title. Mr. Mullen. This is the introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside adopting ZA 16-0007 with California Coastal Commission suggested modifications.
Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0. Let's go to 13, public communication. Do we have any speakers? 15 speakers.
So I'll start calling them. Okay. We have 2 podiums, so feel free to line up either one, and I'll call 4 speakers at a time. Our first speaker is Nick Ritchie, to be followed by Doris Falmer, to be followed by Christine Gorman, to be followed by Cindy Rocco.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Nick Ritchie. I live at 133 Sherry Lane. As the city makes its final payments on the bond debt of $12 million begun in 1986 to the present to build our civic center, Oceanside is now free of that bond payment. You and past council members have approved unfunded projects. Most of these projects are not needed. They do not improve safety, commerce, or tourism. Melrose and the Aquatic Center are unfunded. These are wants. It would appear as if the only way to pay for these projects would be to float bonds once again. Indebting oneself to things that are not needed is fiscally irresponsible and would not meet the needs of the citizens of Oceanside. Of course, the taxes generated from Measure X could be factored in, but they certainly would not even pay for one of these unneeded projects. There does exist 2 glaring needs. The seismically unsafe bridge from Pacific Street to the pier must be retrofitted. How long will the state allow us to use it before they close it? If the city of Oceanside is to be mandated to repair this, should we not be looking at this as a need for which finances must be dedicated? The last repair estimate was $30 million and will rise as time goes by. This is a need. Kudos to the city at the beginning of the Tyson bathroom project. Of course, now the really costly projects are the band shell bathrooms, the police substation, and maintenance office. Where is this money coming from? Measure X? Another bond? The bridge and bathrooms are needs. They directly contribute to safety and tourism. I hope these needs are number 1 and 2 on your priority list. Currently, Brother Benno's conditional use permit is being reviewed. All the nonprofits in our city operate within the conditions that the city requires of them. While Brother Benno's 5 recovery homes and food for the working poor is a success, it's the small group of clients that get services, food, shower, mail service with no accountability for their own wellness, no requirement, no expectation of them consistently working a program toward their own wellness. They get what they need, return to the riverbed or wherever, panhandle, hang out, and do whatever they darn well please. It appears to me that if we allow any nonprofit to exist in our city, they should demonstrate no harm to the citizens of Oceanside, and that their program should be bringing wellness to the people they claim to serve. As you well know, approximately $5 million a year is being spent on transient-related issues. $5 million a year. Given the effects and restraints of Proposition 47, 57, AB 109, and Martin versus Boise, you know that the tools to deal with those who choose a different lifestyle at the expense of those around them are few. Requiring Brother Benno's to provide evidence of their non-recovering house clients' progress towards wellness to create accountability as a condition of the CUP is one of the few tools the city has. Use it, please.
Hi, my name is Doris Falmer, and I am with Non-Toxic Oceanside. And I'm here to ask the city to consider a non-toxic weed control to replace the current system. My granny and papa had a multi-acre cotton farm in the Deep South. They used the pesticide DDT, which they were told was safe on their cotton. They slapped it on the cotton plants with thin molasses with DDT in it. They were, again, told that DDT was safe. They ate organic food and they raised themselves, but both of them died of cancer at a time when cancer was rare. Roundup is also a substance Monsanto tells us is safe. It has been linked to all kinds of health issues, including asthma and cancer. The World Health Organization has deemed it a probable carcinogen. When I think of our children and pets rolling around in parks sprayed with a probable carcinogen, I think it behooves us to err on the side of caution and do what it takes to use the safest possible methods to keep our parks and schools as safe havens for people and not risk their health by using poisons when cheaper, non-toxic methods are available. Monsanto has also lost a lawsuit against Roundup, so even if you deny that Roundup is harmful, I don't want to see city dollars going to lawsuits brought on by those harmed by it. We are asking you to please consider switching from a toxic method of weed control to a non-toxic method. It will save money in the long run as well as lives. Thanks.
Christine Gorman, to be followed by Cindy Rocco, to be followed by Kathleen Lippett.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Christine Gorman, and when you were giving the opening prayer and thanking our Creator for the green grass and the rain and the butterflies, that felt encouraging. I felt like maybe we can appreciate the environment. I think it's actually our greatest asset, and Oceanside is in a prime area. We have the beaches, we have this beautiful area, a tourist destination. We're very different from the places that are inland. We are a tourist destination. We get a lot of our income from tourist dollars. Not only that, but the residents too. And there's more and more people expressing concern about the harm that pesticides can cause. You may have noticed that up and down California, there are more and more cities that are adopting non-toxic ordinances, including our neighbors, Irvine and Carlsbad. Now, studies show that children's developing organs create early windows of great vulnerability, during which exposure to pesticides can cause great damage. We have to consider this. This first occurred to me because as a grandmother taking my grandson out to the parks, which I was doing just about daily, and he loved to roll in the grass and sit in the wildflowers, and then I discover, well, these places are being sprayed. They touch it with their hands. If they go to take a snack, it's going to their mouth. They crawl on the ground. They're extremely vulnerable. We really need to protect them. And I really hope that you won't be in denial about this. This is doable. Other cities have done it. I have in my hand here, and I did have emailed to you. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it. When I get the next batch in, there's going to be, I think, up there about 650 signatures so far, concerned citizens who are wanting to see us adopt a non-toxic pesticide policy. And some things to consider about the hidden cost of pesticide use, off-target damage, and litigation. The last person just mentioned litigation. Even if you think you can win a lawsuit, I don't want my tax dollars going to fight it. So let's get ahead of the game. Also, with these pesticides, they develop herbicide resistance, and there's public resistance. I would like to see the city adopt a non-toxic policy and bring it to City Council, a draft policy, and we can work on it. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, Council, Cindy Rocco, South Oceanside, and I'm here to talk about, thank you for, I'm here to talk about the bus stop elimination, which is actually only phase 1 of the eliminations, and it's called bus stop optimization, and I randomly found out about it because I went up to the North County Transit to go give them feedback as a bus rider about some of the safety issues and about the headways and the timing and buses passing by, et cetera. So I found out about the optimization, and now wanted to speak to it because I think that what we're doing is we're looking at this. Well, one thing is I want to ask you to somehow be influential as the representative on North County Transit to get them to postpone any sort of bus stop eliminations. Let me just think. Okay. We need to learn how to move people, and if we take away stops, we're not going to be moving people, right? So this was just an example of when I wanted to go to a meeting at the Chamber of Commerce on transiency or whatever. And so I was just coming down, and to do this, you'd say, okay, I know I can leave my house at X time, I can go down there, I can walk the mile or 0.8 miles to the Chamber of Commerce, go to the meeting, go back, it's an hour meeting, go home. Well, I can't just do that because the bus isn't there when it's supposed to be. When I was in New York, I could catch that 7:36 bus down on the highway every morning because it was going to be there at 7:36. These buses do not follow. These time schedules are irrelevant because they are not there at that time. They measure between leaving a depot to getting to a depot, but all those stops in between are not consistent. It needs to be reliable to be able to be picked up. I'm sorry, I just have so many thoughts on this, and now I'm getting a little bit confused, so I do apologize for that. But the bottom line is, if you want to move people, you need more places for people to get moved by. So to take away the stops is sort of redundant, because right now they don't even stop at the stop when the time is there. So, how to explain this? Just even coming here, I had to call Mary Ellen to get a ride because the bus had already gone by. I knew I wasn't going to catch it. And then on the way here, I said part of the problem is you go to the bus stop and you're waiting 20 minutes. You hopefully are waiting only 20 minutes for a bus. Thank you. But it's really 40 minutes because it's a double headwind. Okay, so as a state, I think we're trying to get to 15-minute rapid transit. So now we're saying we're doing 20 minutes now, which we're not doing. It's not the reality. Okay, that is not the reality. And so what happens is if you take away bus stops, you're going to reduce your speed, so you're going to get from A to B faster, and so then you can, the key here, justify density parking requirements reductions. So right now the state law says that you can reduce parking if there's going to be a bus stop even within 5 years at that location, and I'll respect your time, but I will try to get this together and give it to you, but I am going to say that I am going to be asking the CS to please take the challenge of going to and from everything you do for 1 month, no SOV, and live and breathe it, because then you will know how to solve it instead of taking away bus stops as optimization. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speakers are Kathleen Lippett, to be followed by Jane Marshall, to be followed by Ellen Bartlett.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Kathleen Lippett. I'm a public health educator and practitioner working to provide tobacco, marijuana, and other drug use prevention education. The UT reported this month that the cannabis rush is on in Oceanside. I'd like to call your attention to the BCC, the Bureau of Cannabis Control's list of banned toxic contaminants found in marijuana sold by retail businesses, and to the BCC's weekly cannabis testing reports available online. This testing information is important to Oceanside and to you as policymakers responsible for public health, safety, and welfare, because so many marijuana businesses fail to meet testing requirements. It's important for this city to take steps now to ensure local testing labs are available and that products from businesses permitted here are tested and meet science state standards. In a test of California marijuana just over a year ago, NBC reported that 93% tested positive for pesticides and substances that can make the buyer sick, even though they were claimed to be pesticide-free. Just this January, another sample lab test conducted by NBC showed vaping cartridges contained banned contaminants, including a pesticide that becomes poisonous hydrogen cyanide when heated. Other sample testing statewide has shown significant failure to meet standards. The BCC requires testing determines the presence of pesticides, microbial impurities such as E. coli, salmonella, and fungus, cancer-causing heavy metals, mold, insect fragments, hair, and other hazardous adulterants. solvents, chemicals, moisture, THC homogeneity, and reliability of cannabinoid and terpenoid content. Medical professionals continue to remind us that medical marijuana is an anecdotal definition strategically marketed by the marijuana industry, not a term endorsed by legitimate medical organizations. I urge you as public policymakers to pursue strong oversight measures related to testing locally grown or manufactured products to ensure consumers are not exposed to contamination. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Jane Marshall, Crestview Drive, Oceanside. Wanted to mention about the Melrose Extension Gap Link, whatever it's called these days. I'd like to ask that the Council strongly consider just saying no on this for a variety of reasons. For instance, $40 million plus whatever land takes that they have to do for 3,000 feet of road with 5 lights doesn't seem like a good investment for Oceanside taxpayers. Also, that it could create a greater bottleneck right there at the 76. Already they're trying to mitigate traffic there, but as we know, the Caltrans is not intending to widen 76, so why would we open another gateway? There's irreversible damage done to the community as well as Guahomie Park that is enjoyed by all the region, not just Oceanside. And it would be taking away homes, farms, even businesses that are producing revenue for Oceanside. Just for cut-through traffic from Vista, Carlsbad, places, people going to 15. So we understand that the matter will be brought forth perhaps next week on the agenda, and I strongly urge you to consider not only saying no to Melrose, but also to taking off the obsolete circulation plan. In addition, a bunch of many citizens in Eastern Oceanside are gravely concerned about the North River Farms project. I know it's been moved out, pushed out, but the main reasons is the fire and traffic issues that result in putting high density in farmland without the proper infrastructure. And I know that there's this promise of widening College Boulevard or College Bridge, but that really does nothing for those high density homes that are along North River Farms or North River Road. So please, both of these issues, listen to your constituents and allow us to work with you and city staff on a better balanced plan. Thank you.
Next speaker, Ellen Bartlett, to be followed by Dirk Akema, to be followed by Dean Capralis.
If we call your name, you can come up to the podium and be ready to speak.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Bartlett. I'm a longtime Oceanside resident, and I just wanted to express my dismay that our City Council hasn't had the feasibility study for community choice energy presented yet. I actually had to go down to Encinitas City Council in order to see a presentation. I think our citizens deserve the right to have that study presented. We paid for it. I paid for it with my tax money. And we have the right to actually have that feasibility study presented. It's an extremely positive study, and I feel that it shows that we should be adopting community choice energy in our city. I know that Oceanside wants to be cautious in this regard, but all the information shows Carlsbad City Council voted 5-0 to proceed with it. Encinitas City Council voted 5-0. San Diego County voted for this as well. And I know that you're all talking about wanting more jobs, good-paying jobs in Oceanside for the people that live here. And community choice energy would bring needed funds to our city, according to what the results of the feasibility study show. And these would be good-paying jobs that would be involved in, green technology jobs, installing solar panels, and doing retrofitting, and we would have money for that. I love the city of Oceanside. I've lived here for many years, and I think that our city deserves community choice energy, and I think if we wait too long, we're going to lose a year where all the other cities, our sister cities that we are in this study with, are going to go ahead with this and leave it behind. If we do it as a joint powers authority, we're not going to have to worry about city having liability, and I think that, being overcautious is going to cost our city and and the people that live here. So I am asking you, it's time to have the feasibility study brought to the city council so that the people that live here can actually hear about it and see the results. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. Dirk Ackerma, Crestview Drive, Oceanside. We have recently formed a citizen advocacy group called Save Our Sand Oceanside. It's recently come to our attention that the downtown resort developer is excavating our coastal bluffs and disposing of the sand. When all logical conclusions would lead you to think that he would take the coastal bluffs, which is all sandstone, by the way, and then use it to replenish our beaches. But unfortunately, the developer doesn't see that, or has reasoned that it's actually cheaper and easier for him to dispose of the sand than to utilize it as beach sand to replenish our suffering beaches. What is unique about this situation is that the developer actually got approval of this project a couple of years prior to the City of Oceanside enacting a new condition that requires any new projects that are excavating soil that is sand-worthy to deposit it on the beach. So the developer is now is celebrating because they're not held under this restriction. I think it would be incumbent for the city staff to revisit the permit that was granted to them and to discuss conditions that would require them to test and then to put the sand on the beach, so that they would then comply with the current zoning requirements for excavating coastal bluffs. This sand does belong on the beach. It is good beach quality sand. It's the same sand that they have down in Encinitas and La Jolla, where the bluffs are allowed to naturally erode. The problem with Oceanside, one of our problems that we don't have sand on the beach, is that we have built up to the bluffs, and there is no coastal bluffs for the natural wave erosion to replenish the beaches. So this I see as really, it's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity for Oceanside to seize a significant amount of coastal sandstone and to deposit it on our suffering beaches. And it really seems to me that if we reach out to the developer with just a heartfelt talk and some perhaps making some type of concession somewhere, that they will treat Oceanside right. They are starting a long-term relationship with the City of Oceanside, and I would think that they would want to treat Oceanside right. I'm amazed that my time went so quick because I had one more slide.
Please wrap it up. Wrap it up, please.
Pardon me?
If you could please wrap it up. If you could please wrap it up.
Yes. I'm just asking that the City Council consider action that will direct staff to engage the resort with discussions that they will comply with current development requirements, which would include excavated sand to be tested and used to restore Oceanside Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speakers are Dean Capralis, to be followed by Suzanne Hume, to be followed by John Botsworth.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Dean Capralis. I live at 611 Grant Street here in Oceanside. And I'm here to share with you, well, first of all, I'm here to support community choice energy and urge you to approve that and get that sustainability study going. But also, I'm here to share with you this article that was in the paper today. It's pretty interesting. It's the results of a U.S. Geological Survey done by Patrick Bernard, who's the Research Director for the USGS Climate Impacts and Coastal Processes team. And what this study did that is different than a lot of the other studies is they combined forecasts of ocean level rise with storm data. And what they found, and what was significant to me, was that they found that even with less severe storms, not these 100-year storms, just a less severe, like an every winter storm, added to a 2-meter level sea rise, which is what is projected by the end of the century, it would impact 483,000 Californians and $119 billion in property damage. And just to give you some ideas about those numbers, the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake resulted in $10 billion of property damage. The 2017 wildfires resulted in $18 billion in damage. Hurricane Katrina was $127 billion in damage. So what we're looking at is yearly storms hitting California that will result in Hurricane Katrina-sized catastrophes. So we need to get our carbon levels down and limit greenhouse gases, and community choice energy is a piece of the puzzle in order to do that. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you so much for all that you do. I am Suzanne Hume, and I'm here to talk about, if I could put this up here. I'm here to, on behalf of CleanEarthForKids.org, I'd like to publicly thank Christine Gorman for the fantastic work that she's done, gaining over 650 signatures. People of Oceanside do not want toxic pesticides in their parks. So because we always want to be in their city, on school district land. So we always want to be on the same page with this. So I wanted to let you know I am going to the school district as well. We've been in Carlsbad to say thank you because they are already non-toxic, just like San Juan Capistrano, Irvine, so many others, countless other cities are non-toxic. So we've been up there, and cities have asked us to speak. We're speaking at school districts and in classrooms as well, and with PTA. So we're always on the same page. I will always email you or give you a heads up when the press asks to speak. We've been in the paper several times now talking about non-toxic, talking about no idling, and protecting children's health. We have a seasoned grant writer, and we're so excited for all the great things that are going to happen in Oceanside with children. So I'm a teacher, a reading specialist, and right now several of my students are in Buchanan Park where there is 2,4D, which is speed zone. And so they're at soccer practice along with a high school teacher that is a coach for the girls soccer. Anyway, they're there and they're all being exposed to things that they should not be. And anyway, I'm hoping that we can quickly that you can go ahead and do a resolution, I guess that is, make a motion to go ahead and begin studying this. As you know, the Parks Department is involved in as well, and we are very thankful to them. So Clean Earth for Kids has top 25 that we have emailed you, and we're working with Russ Cunningham as well. We'd like to say thank you to the City of Oceanside and Russ Cunningham for all his amazing hard work. Of course, we are in support of 100% renewable energy and CCE and anything that's going to cut the pollution for children and be good for Oceanside. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I know that John's going to talk to you about no idling ordinances that are happening and are in place in so many places on the East Coast already. We are talking with school districts and getting people involved, and we want children's art for the signs to be around that are no idling, be idle-free. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is John Bodor, to be followed by Jimmy Knott, to be followed by Robert Walker.
Council, thank you very much. I've talked to a number of you about no idling ordinances. It's already in 6 states. across the nation and a number of other cities. But one thing I want to talk about tonight is the state of California in 2016 unanimously passed a resolution, ACR 160, specifically about motor vehicle idling around children. And they resolved to encourage motorists not to idle around children. And much of these are based on the highlights from that resolution, acknowledging the links of idling and motor exhaust to asthma and the particular damaging to children's lungs, the toxics in there like benzene and formaldehyde and particulate matter, and the dangers of asthma. And one specific thing that I thought was very interesting is that 1 minute of idling puts in more carbon monoxide than 3 packs of cigarettes. So every time someone is sitting outside their kid's school idling, every minute they're sitting there, they're pumping more than 3 packs of cigarettes of pollution into the air around those kids. And that is, among other things, right? So also they acknowledge the fact that idling actually wastes more gas than if you were actually driving your car. It also burns 1.4 billion gallons of gasoline every year in the United States and 13 million tons of carbon dioxide. And, 27 other states and the District of Columbia have already passed legislation specifically looking at idling around children. So I would ask that the City Council of Oceanside direct staff to look at ACR 160 and modify it for the City of Oceanside and pass this resolution. Thank you very much.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. First off, I want to take and follow up on Ms. Rocco's report. After examining the report, I want to let you know that the proposed cuts, 1/3 of them are in Oceanside. 1/3. So you need to look at that report. Last weekend, this is what I need to tell you, is that we had a professional on homelessness speak in our public library. And the professional, Greg, I forget his last name, of Interfaith Community Services, he spoke specifically about Oceanside and the impact and concerns that were raised in the book, Evicted. Councilmember Sanchez was there, and she can take and elucidate on a lot of things that was talked about. And I would like for all of you to think about this. The speaker said we should expect a tripling of our senior homeless population within the next decade. And Oceanside specifically is not prepared. We are not prepared to take and help our seniors in the next decade for our senior homeless population, which will triple. Many seniors, especially our elderly seniors, cannot work due to disabilities, both physical and mental. So your proposed works program is out the window for seniors who are elderly and has those conditions. And Social Security does not provide a living income anymore, especially here in San Diego County. So we have to consider those things, and because we're putting our seniors at risk. The old standards are fading away. Many seniors do not have the support systems that were once counted upon. Like children, many of our seniors do not have children anymore. They're single seniors. And many of the seniors also have their own children coming back home living with them, and they're exhausting their savings. They're going to be homeless, a lot of them. We aren't prepared to help them. So I would take and just ask you, do we really love our seniors? Do we respect our elders? Are we really prepared to help them with the coming crisis? It's in your hands. please consider this. Thank you.
Our next speakers are Robert Walker, to be followed by Nancy Weaver, to be followed by Wally Stevens.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, I'm Bob Walker. I live in Oceanside, 92056. About 130 years ago, the City of Oceanside was incorporated, and I assume it was a little bit before then is when we assumed the stewards of land management for this area. Our land management practices incorporated soil retention, minimizing the natural soil runoff, which eventually replenishes the sand on our beaches. I recall about 25 years ago, we decided to shore up the berms and along the San Luis Rey River and to upgrade the soil retention there to minimize the flooding and property damage down in the valley. We did a good job at soil retention. And this has been at the expense of our shrinking beaches, our shrinking sandy beaches, I should say. About 2 weeks ago, I attended a workshop right here in this room. The city projected our future issues due to climate change and the rising waters, which I have no doubt everything that was communicated there we have coming, but not once did I hear talk about our past soil retention programs. Over the past 7-8 years, we have seen some major development right here in downtown Oceanside. We have witnessed major land removal and the hauling of all that sand taken away from this area and deposited to who knows where. We don't really know where it went. At least I don't. And if we never practiced what we call land management, all that sand would have naturally eroded and it would have been deposited on our beaches. Now, we once again have started a new development right up here on the bluffs. And we are about to see, once again, all that sand removed from the area and deposited into who knows where. If you ask any of the homeowners along the beach where they believe that sand should be deposited, I think you know what the answer would be. It's natural. Let's put it on the beach. That same place where nature would have deposited it if we let nature take its course. If the city management act now, we could do what's right. We can send that sand back to the beach where it belongs. And we ask that you use your power and do what is right. And please divert that sand back to the beach. Thank you for your time and your services.
Good evening, Mayor and the City Council. My name is Nancy Weaver, and I live at 1973 Apple Street for a number of years with my husband. We have been longtime residents of Oceanside. I'm an original Californian. Original? That's a good name. And we are part of the neighborhood that is bordered by Greenbrier Drive itself that leads right into and ends in Oceanside Boulevard. This neighborhood is a mixed-use development. It is actually was originally apartments, but also there's KA Plaza that faces Greenbrier Drive. So on the bottom floor, the ground floor of KA Plaza, on Greenbrier Drive, across from the Japanese store, right next to Women's Resource Center, they have small businesses, and the upper floor are apartments for residents, including children, and the apartments or the KA Plaza also extends behind Greenbrier Drive to include the parking lot for both of those types of tenants, and also they have a one-story building along the back end that is small businesses, business suites. In order for them to enter and exit into their parking lot, they have to come off what a city right-of-way, an alley, a driveway. It's their only entry and exit. And what I've been made aware of lately is that the merchants on Greenbrier Drive at KA Plaza are having issues that they've never had before in all these years. And the issue is that do-it-yourself car wash customers are driving from the car wash, which is about a half a block or a block away, coming down the alley and turning right and parking in front of Greenbrier Drive offices and drying their cars, blocking customers of those businesses. And I understand that there have been calls to code enforcement on behalf of that situation more than once. So behind the single story, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to read you what the internal emails are from the code. And I'm going to request extra time. This has been 3 years in process. City code has said that Soapy Joe's Car Wash is not liking the limitation of 8 to 8 hours. They are all about increased customer base regardless of the way it affects the neighbors. Brian Ford of Parking. This business is an apples to oranges comparison to the numerous car wash tenants have been there where the employees handle the car washes. The sheer volume of Soapy Joe's appears untenable at this location. At high time, there's simply not enough room for all their customers without affecting the adjacent business access and blocking the alleyway and impediment to emergency. There are a number 4 different departments since up till April of 2018 have supported that there's an overflow overwhelm by the do-it-yourself customers. They don't go to city staff. I'm going to ask that you notice in these documents I have for the council that the city departments were for making sure the Greenbrier Square resolution of 1988 is followed not only by all the other merchants but by Soapy Joe's. But as of July 6, 2018, in the public records made possible, the internal emails from the city staff shows that the traffic engineer lead herself said, how are we going to have Soapy Joe's pay for a change to the hard structured gateway of the apartments at the end of the driveway? They are proposing and have proposed and have made the owners of the apartments who are new to the area agree that Soapy Joe's is going to change the physical structure of the apartments gate and gateway and move us almost across from the smog test bay. And they're saying that we have no choice. And I've gone to all the different departments. I've contacted 11 departments over the years, the last 2 years of city, and they say they did a complete turnaround and reverse and will not acknowledge that. They're asking us,
if you could please wrap it up.
I will wrap it up. I'm asking the city council to look at this and find out who has toxically affected the good city employees who know the truth about the resolution of 1988 for all the merchants of Greenbrier Square, and that it is ludicrous for a car wash, after 30 years of car washes, to say, let's change the apartment's property.
I'm going to have to ask you to stop, please.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm supplying these records to the city clerk.
Good evening. I'm back. Rita passed away on Mother's Day, and she kind of left me wondering what I was going to have to do. Well, I found out. I'm back, and Tidbits is going to come back in one form or another. Those of you who remember it, and some of you don't, some of you dreaded seeing it.
In yellow?
Huh?
In yellow?
Naturally. I may even learn how to do it online. I had a whole bunch of stuff prepared, but you guys have been here long enough today, and you're probably all going to get up and run like hell once this is done. You know me well enough. Those who don't know me will learn. I am responding to employees from the city who are calling me or talking to me and saying there are some problems here. And some of you are aware of them, some of you aren't. Some of the senior employees, I understand, have been forced to apologize to some of our elected officials. That is, Marine Corps term, BS. You guys work for us. Now, I realize that political contributions are nice, but we got so many political contributions coming in from out of town, and you're forgetting who you're supposed to be representing. I'm not there yet, but someday I got all of this. Took me 6 weeks to get all this public information, and my eyes were hurting when I finished it. Nancy approached me. I've known her for 25 years, and she was having a hard time with Soapy Joe's. I called the owner of Soapy Joe's. You know what he told me? I have to bring it up with my board. He doesn't have a board. Why lie to me? You guys know lies don't go well with me. So I'm not touching my prepared speech because, like I said, you guys are going, and I'm going to cut it at 3 minutes and let you run like hell. But please consider that CUP requirement on Soapy Joe's, they could move over to the CHP site, do quadruple the business, bring in some taxes, and make everybody happy. Please. And like I said, I'm back, and I'll be here regular, and some of you already visit. And hey, I got into 4,500 and OPD dispatch. People don't do that. But because I love all you city employees, platonically, I will work with you. But please don't hurt my employees. Don't hurt my city. What do you think of that, Peter? Can I go home now?
You can go home now, Wally.
I call Peter his lordship. I don't know if he likes it or not, but I love messing with his lordship. And Jack over there wants to kick me once in a while. But take care. Good night. God bless.
Thank you,
Stay out of
Wally.
trouble if you have to.
Is that it?
There are no more speakers.
Is there any general council member, Councilmember Sanchez?
Thank you. I wanted to let people know some of the speakers that addressed non-toxic pest management plan. They're gone, but we do have a meeting this Friday at 3 o'clock with the Parks and Rec Commission, and Parks and Rec Commission will be specifically addressing that non-toxic pest management plan and putting together an ad hoc committee to make recommendations to the council. This is something that they feel very strongly about. And happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you. Bye.
And with that, we will adjourn to a workshop on 2 o'clock on Wednesday, March 20th for Planning Commission interviews. Yeah.